Hi, this is Dave Belsky. Welcome to the Talent Cannabis Sunset Session. This is episode 34. We have very special guests today, Jake and Nate from Maison Bloom. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Man, so we had the chance to meet. I think that it was through ArcView originally, because you were kind of premiering your brand at some of their events, and I got the chance to experience a full tasting, and it was wonderful. Honestly, it was unlike any experience I'd had in terms of from a sampling standpoint of any type of product for this industry. So, great job. But I'd love to start with at this point, where this brand is so mature. I mean, look at the quality of the packaging. I look at this and I'm like, this should be on like the very top shelf of any store, any dispensary. You guys must have been at this for forever.
I mean, it feels like forever because cannabis will age a person. But in all honesty, no, seriously, I mean, that's amazing to hear, and it's a great compliment, and it's a testament to how hard the team works. But we've been building this quietly behind the scenes, actually, for about 2 years. I myself come from a bit of a hospitality and culinary background, working with Chef Michael Mina's team on his new concepts. We saw a real opportunity, and there's a lot more we could say about that, but to create something that's really flavor first, and at the same time as COVID set in, it was a really interesting time for our approach. We put humans at the center of everything we do, so we built a great respondent group, and we started doing various different versions of product testing. And so we spent the last 2 years, these COVID times, building what you see in front of you, from the recipes to the branding, and every part of it has had active people telling us what they're missing in the market, what they crave, what they want, and it's our job to look through all of that and hopefully create, what the industry and what people, have always wanted but never knew.
So we're going to talk more about this brand and where it's going and what it is, what this first product is as well. But this isn't your first entrepreneurial journey, right? Like you guys,
That's correct.
You guys were met in school, right? Through a professor said, I think you guys would work well together. You complement each other well. Is that the story?
Well, thank you. That's the idea. At least that's the personas we put out there. But yes, this is not our first journey together. Jake and I met through Pepperdine. We actually went to Grasadillo down in Irvine in Malibu. And so, we started in the fashion industry together. We actually ran a luxury clothing company in San Francisco called Jake for 7 years in Jackson Square. And
I actually went by that. I used to, I lived there for a couple of years, so I remember that name. I was like, Jake, that's actually, I think that's for me.
Yeah, technically it is the most popular dog name in America, so just to let you know, that may have been why you connected to it. And just so we're clear, I'm not that egotistical. I did do a small stint on Project Runway, and it just made it easier if we called the shop Jake, so that we could try to get all the fame that we could and eke that for everything. So it's more about making a profit in that regard than it is about my own ego. Just setting the record straight.
All right, fair enough. So you worked together at a B school. You built something. You had an opportunity to exit from that venture, and you took it, and then kind of went your separate ways for a little bit. And that's when you found Michael Mina, or they found you, I should say.
Bit of both.
Yeah.
And that's like a global brand of very high quality restaurants, and what were you doing for them?
I was their chief marketing officer. Chef and one of his best friends, Patrick, run the company, and with a fantastic team, I should say. And they were looking to take a different approach. Really understand that there are emerging younger audiences that weren't necessarily engaged in the same type of white tablecloth dining, and so they recruited me to look at the concepts and look at the opportunity and really tap that for the younger audience. And I was lucky enough at the time to pull over my old right hand from our fashion world, Tony. Tony's actually the third founding partner here.
Tony.
So yeah, I mean, and everyone likes Tony better. So I get.
Tony is a gem.
Yeah, see, really, like
everybody likes Tony.
like no, literally, if Titanic was made today, way, they would use Tony instead of the Blue Diamond, and it would make so much sense. Like, it would make so much sense. Yeah, she would not be throwing that at the end into the ocean. She would be keeping him. Yeah. See, you know. But yeah, no, we had a really great run at Michael's, at Chef's team, and doing, great things with the different concepts. Hospitality is fantastic. It taught us a lot, and with that, it really honed, I think, our understanding of the flavor first approach and what we could do with it. And at the same time, we're getting older. I hate to admit it, and we're drinking less, or maybe just drinking isn't as kind to us as it used to be. And
I feel that.
We wanted to.
I mean, I'm on the plant-based wellness train, so I understand.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I particularly leaned into it, but Tony, Nathan, they didn't grow up with cannabis in the same way that I did.
Because you're in Northern California.
Yeah, there's just different, and so. I'm vaping. They don't really feel comfortable with that. I'd give them an edible, but then questionable because that one time in college, and then they were on the bathroom floor, right? So we started talking about, what if we had a really craveable cannabis beverage? Would that change everything? And so much of what we do is hanging out, after work or catching up and having a drink. You open a bottle of wine, or you get cocktails together and you talk. And we were like, wait a minute, like, what if we could really do this with cannabis? And thankfully, science has caught up, and you can do some really cool things thanks to nano-emulsions. I mean, Vertosa is our partner, and they're leading the way, and they've been great to us in continuing to push us, and vice versa. We push them, so we can do hopefully really, really cool things that continue to create more shelves in beverage. Because right now, there's a great shelf in beverage, right? But we think that beverage can be more like when you go to the grocery store or to Bevmo or wherever, and you see multiple shelves, right? Sometimes you reach up here, sometimes you reach down here. If there's a cold case, or maybe you're reaching over here. We know we live up here, and we're okay with that. But I mean, exactly.
Always tough.
The knees. We don't. It's fine.
Yeah. So what do you take from your first entrepreneurial journey of building a retail experience, now building a consumable brand experience with an intoxication aspect? Like, is it just the pure entrepreneurial push? Are there similarities between the two? The lessons you learned from the first, you applied to the second?
Nathan.
Yeah, I'll take a pass at that. I mean, for sure. I mean, there's definitely similarities in almost any businesses that you create. Starting in the clothing industry, it was always the consumer first. We dealt a lot with custom tailoring for suits, shirts, pants, and the like. And obviously, when it comes to flavors and putting a product out that actually resonates with the mainstream consumer, you need to put the consumer first. And so we have a really tight network of individuals, 250 plus, that have gone through several iterations of this. We tweak the recipes, we look at the product, the packaging, before we move forward with anything, and really get their input so they can help us actually create the products that they want, right? This is not done in a closed, behind the scenes, right? This is very much done with the consumer in mind.
Well, you did that with Jake. Was what is the adult, male, professional, well-kept consumer want from a clothing experience, and that iterative process of fine-tuning your product and experience over the course of time, applying directly to launching this.
Yeah, and just thinking through, all the different details, just the aromas, how the bottle feels in your hand, what it looks like when you open it up from the packaging itself.
This bottle actually fits really well in my hand, so it's...
okay, so it's... No, you don't understand how much that matters to me, though.
But the curve and I see that there's nothing with this that was chance. This wasn't like, let's just throw it out there. Let's be thoughtful and artistic and experiential in how we've I'm sure what's in the bottle, of course, but also outside of the bottle.
But seriously though, his hands are massive, and legitimately, legitimately, we have had this conversation where we're like, now see, he can't hold that and that actually feel like a comfortable experience.
But it does matter.
It does. It absolutely matters.
Well, I think one of the things that you're picking up on as well, Dave, is just there's simple things like having the embossed B there, right? Adding some of the fun elements where consumers are being led, they present ideas, we're able to take those, craft those into something that actually resonates with them, even if it's not the original idea. So whether it's the form factor, it could be the cap, it could be something that's embossed, it could be something about the logo, but really, again, just taking that consumer feedback, listening to what they have to say, and then applying that in real life.
And if I may add, just to really embellish what he's already said, that's been fantastic, is that we're obsessed with the consumer. And from our fashion world, we were dealing with individuals oftentimes one-on-one. What feels good to you? What do you like? It's so customer service focused. And as we moved over to hospitality, in the case of Tony and I, that same white tablecloth experience is the guest is always right, and creating that amazing table experience for you from start to finish and your sequence of service. And here we look at that same approach of how do we make sure that you feel like you're at the absolute very center of everything that we do. And in doing that, when you're in love with your customers to the level that we are, it takes away some of, I think, the internal pressures and the fights that you can have in product development about your own opinion. Because instead, we're really looking at what you want
You're just finding qualitative data and feedback, and it's a loop.
And it's so fun when you light up. It's much more exciting when you light up than when we light up. That's where we really get the experience.
In terms of how you've gone through the tastings that I had the chance to experience, it's like you're waiting for that reaction and what they say, because you want to make sure you're on the right track and you're open to the idea. You want to get it right, because this product's launching. This
Correct.
is coming out in Q2 in California.
You're right.
Coming to a delivery service or retailer near you.
You have been listening to the pitch. I am so proud.
Hey, man, I hear things. But your consumer for cannabis is different than other brands that focus on cannabis as consumer. And I look at a product that's more of a lower dose beverage as a way that it's something to connect with curious consumers that are looking at this for the first time and ultimately that are tired of drinking or maybe intimidated by cannabis. So who is your consumer for the Maison Bloom product, the beverages that are launching in Q2? Who is the target consumer?
We will always answer that and say that we are most focused on millennials and zennials, because there's so much of what goes into this package and the actual beverage itself that makes sense. But at the end of the day, the product actually really performs and connects with anyone who's looking for a quality, craveable experience, and that happens across the generations. We've tried to be really specific and intentional about everything we do, as you've mentioned, and that's allowed the product to be something that can apply in so many different ways. So, for example, these seltzers are under 35 calories, all natural ingredients. We use an agave sweetener. This makes it low glycemic.
35 calories?
Yeah, under 35 calories, yeah.
And how many, in one serving, 35 calories, how many milligrams are you
Great question.
consuming?
We dose at what we call our perfect 10s. So in this 10-ounce bottle, you've got 3 milligrams of THC, 7 milligrams of CBD, and then 10 milligrams of blended cannabis terpenes. And that's one of our real signatures. We use cannabis terpenes like the winemaker's approach. And so we're layering this in to really activate the flavor. The way I like to say it is that, we use cannabis terpenes to sort of do double work here. They're empowering the flower to give it its best possible performance for you, but also those terpenes are being carefully selected so that they pair nicely. So if we look at, for example, the strawberry, Provençal, and lemongrass, we're selecting one terpene to really amplify the flavor of the strawberry and another terpene to really amplify the flavor of the lemongrass. And together you're going to get something that's going to taste fresher, brighter, and really better for you. But the best thing about it is in our sessionable dosage is the fact that, here's the deal. If you are a flower consumer, that's part of that's part of how you enjoy this amazing plant medicine, right? That's part of how you do your day, right? We're not going to change that. In fact, we don't want to. We just want to enhance it. And so with the sessionable dosage, what happens is you can enjoy...
Sessionable dosage.
Sessionable dosage, yeah, because it's a session. You're going to have a session moment. And you know what? You're going to pull out one of your favorite flower and you're going to dive in. And you know what? Maybe that's going to be perfect for you that night, right? But maybe you want to mix it up a little bit, right? So maybe you're going to pull, I don't know, let's go with Pineapple Express, right? Just something that's got a little bit more of a fruit note in it. You're gonna pair that with one of our elevated seltzers, and it's gonna get more of those fruit notes from both the flower and from our beverage. It's gonna taste juicier, like a Starburst.
So this is so I took a class in college that I almost failed and almost didn't graduate because of it. It was Introduction to Wines. And at a young age, I was fortunate enough to like start seeing food pairings. I was 21, I just turned 21, so I could take the class. So this is what you're saying here is that this flavoring and composition of this beverage not only brings out the flavor in things like whether it's spirits, whether it's food. Like this is meant to eat with food because it is a lower dose, and it's something that's not going to be a quick onset.
Correct. And that you can layer on your own, right? Some people have one glass of wine. Some people drink a whole bottle. We're not judging.
Well, I mean, to your point about the consumer, Dave, that's one of the questions that we fielded really early on is people that aren't heavy consumers are questionable even around beverages, right? It is the edible experience that translates into the beverage category as well, which is, 2 milligrams, that might knock me on my ass. And the reality is you're going to feel really good, but you may just have one, right? If you're a heavy user, again, this isn't going to replace the flower, as Jake had already said. This is just really meant to enhance the experience. The seltzers are one of our product families. So we also have a mocktail line that is coming 7 months down the line, where you can actually take those. That's more of your wine replacement at dinner, where you can have it with a nice steak, right? Dependent upon the flavors and the complexity and really what you're looking for just in that experience in itself. But you can also mix that with the seltzer. And so it really becomes a customization for the consumer. So you can have a seltzer during the day at the pool, maybe on the pier, during the day, just soaking up some rays. You can have an alembic at dinner,
you
for
can be
a nice dinner
at home working.
Or you can blend the two of them together.
Want some wellness.
That's right.
You want to still function. You want some wellness. You want some mood enhancing.
That's right.
Maybe you want to focus a little bit more. And there's your session.
Yeah,
100%.
And just on the wellness side of things, everything that we do, these are all natural ingredients, as Jake has already said. Awesome. And so we use pasteurization in our process to keep everything clean. So going along with that wellness theme.
Like natural ingredients, like juices and
100%,
wow.
Yeah. So, we really put the consumer again in mind. We really think about what the cannabis community as a whole represents, and we really try to build off of that feedback and that premise, right?
And when you mentioned, you picked up on sessions and you like that, I would also say where we stand out, everyone goes about this amazing business in different ways that are creating awesome products and awesome, unique experiences. In our instance, we really think that what we provide with the beverage is more of what we would call an ensemble effect. It's not that just in our beverages and what you're consuming, that sounds more of a dosage story. I'm just layering on more THC with more THC because now I'm at 150 milligrams. But an ensemble effect is one where you actually really enjoy what the act of what you're consuming and how you're consuming it. You enjoy your favorite flower, right? That's something that you love. So when you have a good beverage and it gives you a new flavor experience, that's an ensemble. We're all stars here. No one person gets top billing, right?
But if you're in for an evening of consumption of any kind of ingestible, whatever, it's the ensemble effect. It's not the entourage effect.
Correct. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. It's the whole chorus can work together.
So what are the flavors that we're launching with in Q2? Like, what can you talk about these? I know it sounds like a lot of fun.
You want me to do this one?
Tell me about
we've got 4 flavors. We got 4 flavors. We start with our strawberry Provençal and lemongrass. We have a watermelon and pink peppercorn, which is more herbaceous and earthy. Yeah, it's got a little bit of a bite there, and the savory world of beverages is fantastic these days. Of course, herbaceous and earthy is one of our signature categories where we really stand out because cannabis itself is herbaceous and earthy.
And that actually helps it as a mixer with spirits.
Correct, 100%.
We can't ever say that, but
That
can be done.
But you can say it, and we can agree with you because the customer is always right. Now the Passion Wild Honeysuckle, if one was
Passion Wild Honeysuckle.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't say that and not be just so excited.
it's juicy,
It sounds juicy.
Well, and
Passion Wild Honeysuckle.
And if you were
Yes,
in the business
I
of
would try
mixing
that.
champagne with something, you could do it with that if that was your thing. It really is one of those things where we look at craft cocktails, we look at the existing spirit world, and we look at all of the great history that's happened. And then we've created really amazing recipes in the cannabis space that take all of this awesome power of flavor that so often we get to experience exclusively in herb.
It's never been in cannabis. What you're doing, that type of flavor profiling and palating, has never been offered in a low-dose form to cannabis consumers.
And yet it's always been there in the flower. You just had to pick it apart. And that's what's so exciting, is that this isn't all that crazy. This is actually just taking this beautiful, beautiful main ingredient and really making it a star.
So I love the entrepreneurial journey, and I love the thoughts going into the brand. What is the hardest thing about building a cannabis brand in California?
Ooh, that's a good question. I
You
think
could have multiple.
I would like to go first on
Okay,
this.
you can go
Talent.
first.
Like in terms of talent to be able to hire good people for your team, or talent in terms of partners?
Finding the right people, particularly in a startup space, right? Finding the right people and really understanding your DNA and then the DNA of others, and are they going to commingle correctly? Because
Culture is everything in the startup phase, right? Because you're galvanized with the odds against you to push forward and get up a mountain.
and ecosystems matter, which is why it's also been so wonderful that we've crashed into each other, such as it has, thanks to ArcView and the random event that became more. Because again, you have to find people who my mother used to always say, water seeks its own level. So you've got to find people who are at that level with you. And so I would say talent is hard, but when you have great partners like yourselves.
You guys have a huge team and raise a ton of money at this point.
You would think that. I'm going to answer first before I answer that. And I think the hardest thing in cannabis is the education part, which sounds cliche because everybody says it, but
especially for a newer emerging category going after existing consumers, but also any potential consumers.
Well, anybody. I mean, I look at even what you guys do at Flower Hire and how good you are at that. I mean, there's a huge education process, whether it's for your clients, the new talent that you're bringing in.
Is cannabis right for you to work in? Let's figure it out.
Right.
Let's talk about it.
Right. And
That's a good first question for some, I think. Good job.
I mean, cannabis, the career, not the plant. Cannabis, the career may not be the right profession for you, and that's okay. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, no,
that's how
truly,
we approach.
Truly.
Because no one knows what it's like to work in the industry, and we think we have a better idea than most. We're still learning as well because it's constantly evolving and changing.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think one of the exciting things about it is when you do get somebody that does have that commit. Yes, I want to work in cannabis. Yes, I see the potential there. That's where we really are excited about our brand, as well as partnerships that we have within the industry, because that shows that there's so much more to grow, right? You're getting the interest of people that fall outside of the category of the industry that can bring that knowledge into the cannabis industry in itself. And that's, you asked about this, and we raised a ton of money and all this stuff. This is actually bootstrapped today. So Jake and I are the only ones that have put money into the business. Nothing external. It's some of this exterior talent from the category that Jake and some of the other teams, Tony, brings, where it's a branding, a retail, a hospitality background, the culinary background that really blends with where cannabis is in the moment and able to help grow the industry as a whole. And that's what's really exciting about it. So the education part is one of the most challenging, but it also is one of the most inspiring and valuable.
It's when you are able to unlock people's minds in terms of how they can use this product in ways they never even imagined.
Yeah.
It's got to be rewarding.
Yeah, the light bulb goes off, right?
Yeah.
And then it's just, why didn't we think about this before? And obviously there are things like technology that it takes for extraction and whatnot, but once you really start to open up specifically on the culinary side of things, right, then you get into the blendings, right? One of the things that we do really well that Jake is pretty humble about is the blend of the cannabinoids with the terpenes itself. The terpenes aren't there necessarily for just one thing, right? They balance the overall flavor profile. They bring aromas. You may add something completely separate that adds just a little bit of taste or a little bit of bite, and that's where things get really interesting behind the scenes. It's also one of the unique things about the business that we do is all of this is developed in-house. So this again is bringing some of that education, some of those best practices outside of the industry in, and then just having a lot of fun with it.
So when I consume this product, when it's available in Q2, over the rocks on a pour over, with some seltzer water, with some champagne, with spirits, all of the above, right?
You make a cocktail at home. When you make a cocktail, we support you in getting adventurous. Your flavor profiles. You know what you like. Experiment.
It's all about developing your cannabis palate. You're onto something here, and you're obviously pushing up against a lot of friction when you're approaching it in a unique and innovative way. But it's a great vision and story.
Well, and it also opens up a whole different channel as well. One of the things that we really look for is not just your traditional retail or DTC channels. It's also how do you open this up to have a full consumer experience, right? So that could be a consumption lounge. It could be, a VIP special ticketed dinner where you're doing a really nice pairing with a cannabis cocktail with a really nice meal. We work with some of the best culinary trendsetters trendsetters in the industry, and it's really exciting to see how they're actually pairing that. You know, you mentioned your wine class, and once you start to, you know, it's the complexity and the sophistication of the wines, we see cannabis evolving to be the same thing, and we're a part of that early venture.
Well, you know, kudos to you for being brave and putting your kind of sweat, equity, and capital into it to get it to this point. Like, are you guys going to be looking for, you know, what type of people would you be looking for to join the story? What type of partners are you looking for actively as you launch?
On the people side of things, we're deeply passionate about what we do, but the simplest way that we always say it is, are you a lifelong learner? Do you get up every day and if you don't know something and you had to learn it that day, whatever you're confronted with, does that excite you or does that intimidate you? If it excites you, talk to me more. If it intimidates you, you're not ready yet, but you might get there one day. Let's keep in touch.
We're also learning.
We're all learning.
Like, anyone that works in this industry in any capacity, whether it's a founder or a functional person within a vertically integrated company, has to learn how to perform their function in this industry because it's still being written.
And it may change in 6 months too. It really could, right? Like, you'll learn it one day and then you'll learn a different one six months later. Could happen. But that lifelong learning, coupled with just the passion for the unknown as well, right? That this is an industry that every single day is writing the story of what it's going to be. If those two things come together, and then you also really like beverages, then we're probably a pretty good fit.
And I would just add onto that, just being able to support the community at large, because, you know, we haven't gotten here just by ourselves. Yes, the company is bootstrapped, but it takes great partners, great people to come in and chip away, and we help each other. You know, we lift as we climb, and that's extremely important.
And then you ask the question, what's next? Well, you know, we are in an active raise right now. You know, we're seeking investment funds from a mix. You know, we take a holistic approach, and so it's interesting how we're seeing this brand come to life with various different funding resources. But we're actively bringing that to a close in the next few months and taking this to the next level across California. And we're excited to activate not just the dispensary retail experience, not just the consumption lounge, but also a great DTC, great direct to consumer experience that isn't just the product, but it's the support part of it. Because at the end of the day, this is more than just what you drink. It's an overall experience. And we love
the ensemble effect. You're creating the experience of that. And you have to, since you're inventing adjective to describe the product, you have to set the example of that. And I've been to one of the Kikis, and it was an experience, and I enjoyed it.
The flight crew does a good job. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys joining us today. This was really fun.
It's great.
It's always good seeing you.
Yeah.
And I mean, technically, since we haven't left since that first ArcView event, you know, I mean, thanks for finally filming us, is what I would say.
Well, we made it happen, you know, and thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you
For having us.
Thank you,
Appreciate
guys.
it.